Well, it is no exaggeration to say that my featured guest today is a star when it comes to contemporary Iranian music. He's a well-known, beloved, and respected Iranian-American virtuoso violinist, a composer, a singer, a songwriter, and if you know Iranian popular music, you undoubtedly know some of his works. Take a listen to this.
شب چه زیباست یار آمده اینجاست هنگامه عریانی دنیاست هنگام ترنم و تماشاست تو از چرخش یک رقص تو خلوت شبانه یا از متن یه تصویر لبند و دلبرانه
There you go, a little taste of some of the most familiar hits of my featured guest today, Dr. Bijan Mortazavi. He was born in Sauri, Iran. He started playing the violin from a very early age and then added the piano, the guitar, percussion, folkloric string instruments such as oud, tar, santur. He was, by all accounts, a young musical prodigy in Iran. He moved to England to attend university in 1977, and after graduating in civil engineering, relocated to the United States in 1979 to pursue his passion for music. He studied at Texas State University, then settled in California in 1985, where he is based out of to this day. Throughout the 40 years of his music career, he has released 13 albums, several singles, countless music videos, and a number of collaborations with Iranian icons. He has also composed and arranged music for many Iranian pop singers and played alongside such legends as Moin, Haideh, and Sattar. In 2009, Bijan received a fellowship PhD from the Southampton Solent University in Britain in recognition of his work on the development of contemporary Middle Eastern music in an academic form. He was further awarded the honorary degree of Doctor of Music in 2017 from Southampton. He's currently on a huge tour, but kind enough to visit us, and right now, Dr. Bijan Mortazavi joins me in the Roqe Studio. Hello, sir.
Hello, Jian. How are you?
What a pleasure it is to have you here.
Pleasure is all mine, and thank you so very much for inviting me to talk with our people around the world.
Yeah. First of all, how do you feel about when you're doing an interview like this and somebody plays your old hits? Are you tired of them, or do you still have a good feeling about them since they've been so good to you?
I never get tired of those pieces because when I was writing them, it was with all love and passion and knowledge, experience, and whatever I had. So I never get tired of them.
Are you self-critical when you listen back? Do you go, "Oh man, I would have done a different arrangement here. I would have sung this differently," or do you forgive yourself as you grow through this career?
No, actually, when I listen back to them, 99.9% of them are exactly the same thing if I wanted to do it today. Yeah, that 0.1% is...
What's the 0.1%? I'm curious, which is the one that didn't make
It's something that I recognized it the same day when I released it, and still when I hear it, I put my finger on that weak point. There is a song, it is called Shekayat, Grievance.
Yes.
Everything is okay. I mean, as far as the harmonies, the melodies, the instrumentation, everything is fine, except I wish that I wouldn't put that kick all the way through the song the same. I should have changed the groove a bit, particularly in the middle of the song, which I didn't, and I still regret that.
You're kind of someone who, through your knowledge and talent, you're on every side of, I know you compose, sometimes you play all the instruments, when you're listening back, I'm imagining you're not even just listening back as a musician or the writer, but also with the ears of a producer or an engineer or an arranger too, right?
That's correct. That's right. The way that I was trained in order to write a piece was those days it was on a paper. It wasn't no computer, none of these stuff. So when I'm done writing a composition, everything is on the paper. A little triangle or a little different groove on a hi-hat, or a chord, a combination chord. Instead of a regular minor, I would probably put a minor 6 or minor 9, or these sort of things. So I am 100% sure that what I want, that's why I can hear it on the paper.
Wait a minute, you score everything?
Everything.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't, even on your pop songs?
Everything.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Because, of course, even singers that write oftentimes will just bring a band together and say, okay, guys,
No.
let's jam and you do your parts and we'll...
No.
You score everything. You write all the parts.
Everything. That's why I play most of the instruments myself, because there's nobody except myself to fulfill my feeling, my need on the track. The best musician, the best thing that he could do is what I want them to do. So I might as well do it myself. So and since it's written, they have to play that written part. That exactly is what I want, what I wrote. So no, I write everything.
Who is your in the, when they call the Senate, the chamber of sober second thought, somebody who checks on you? It's like every great writer needs an editor, every great musician needs a producer. Who do you trust to tell you or do you, it's quite a lot in your own hands, right? How do you know if you've gotten it perfect? Excellent question.
Well, obviously and very naturally, my wife is always with me, and she knows my feelings. She knows where I'm going on a piece of music, and trust her judgment. But the reason I said it's a great question that you ask is because I have like 5-6 different people in my mind that I know. If I ask, for example, Jian, is this okay? I know that if he says it's okay, it definitely is not okay. I have these people, and I never tell them,
right,
because I don't want to alert them.
Right.
I want it to come out from deep down.
Sure.
I want their honest opinion, what they think, and I know their thinking is not what I want.
Right.
And I have...
Wow.
Yeah.
It's quite strategic.
I have another people that when they say, well, it's okay, Bijan, I know it's excellent. I have these 5-6 people around me for past 30-40 years, and I know how to deal with them. They don't know it. To this point, honest to God, they're my good friends, but they don't know it themselves.
Well, but okay. Well, let's fix the microphone. When you say your wife will speak to you, so will somebody say, hey man, you could do this vocal performance better? Would she say that?
As far as musically, no, she never says that, because she knows that I'm I don't want to be selfish, but I've been doing this I'm 64 years old, and I've been playing violin since I was 2.5 years.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. I don't believe that story. That's crazy to me. You're this little guy, but we'll get to that. Babies play that. Go ahead. Yeah.
So when you're doing something for 62-3 years, 61, 60 plus,
right?
Now you're good at it, whatever it is. So someone can critic on me if he or she is she knows more than me,
right?
Then I can listen.
Let me tell you why I asked this, because, and I wouldn't want for a second this to be interpreted as any disrespect or unappreciation for your mastery. I mean, you're a maestro. You truly are a maestro. But I have this theory about, for example, Elton John. One of the great English pop singers.
My favorite.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, well, that's perfect then. You're familiar with Elton John. So I think Elton John, he's got this incredible fertile period, right, in the 1970s, where he writes album after album of incredibly amazing stuff. And then something happens around 1980 and afterwards where it's kind of hit and miss. It's not as good anymore. And my theory is he became Elton John, the famous Elton John, and everyone was afraid to tell him. You know, they didn't want to, nobody would tell him if the people he surrounds himself with when the album's not good, you know? So Elton just keeps putting stuff out and he doesn't have, he's like the, you know, a king or something that nobody wants. So that's the thing that I always think when somebody who is as proficient as you are at doing everything, who's there? I would think of Prince this way too. You know, Prince did everything, you know,
Yeah.
Who's the checks and balances, right? Who's going to look out for you?
My brain. My own brain. Let me tell you something, Jian. I know that you play some instruments.
Yes.
To me, a good work is not a good hit, or a good work is not how many it sells. To me, that's not the point. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I bet you anything, if you go and listen to those pieces that Elton John wrote and it wasn't good to some people, they are magnificent to the point of, you know, view of a musician. They're almost flawless because the guy knows what he's doing. I mean, he cannot go wrong. It's like if you're a good driver, you cannot go backward in a river. This is not your nature. This is not how
I disagree.
Huh?
I disagree.
Tell me why.
Well, because I think even great, you know, golfers can have a bad golf game, you know, great. So why can't a great musician write a lousy song once in a while?
I disagree with you. I'll tell you why. If you're performing live, yes, I do agree with you, because that is that moment. Something might go wrong. Nobody can control that. Even that maestro playing piano, violin, whatever. That might go wrong. But when you're writing, it is not like I write and say, okay, this is finished. No, I go back, check it many, many times, 20 times, 30 times, 100 times. That's why a good piece, to record it and release it, takes at least a year.
Right.
I can write it in like 5 hours, arrange it for a big orchestra within like 15 hours, but I never release it because I must check it back, but hear what I wrote on the paper, hear it, hear the whole thing, hear the full thing.
Yeah.
Right? Then the percentage of you making a mistake is less than 1%, less than 1.1%, because you check it.
I understand.
You know, you judge yourself.
Yes.
In different aspects. You know, from when I write something, I put myself in a 14 years old kid. How would he feel? How would she feel? Where he would feel how means if he's in a picnic, how would he feel about it? If he's behind the wheel, how would he think about it? If it's instead of a 14 years old, she's a 55 years old lady, a bookkeeper, how would she think about it? A cook, how would she think about it? A mother. I think all of these things, all of it, on each individual piece that I write. I'm pretty sure Elton John does that same thing.
I mean, that's a lot of thought to put into a song. Now, when you are in the moment of creation, if I can put it that way, do you write on the piano? Where do you write your pop songs? I mean, obviously you have the violin, but where do you write the melody on?
In a plane.
On the plane?
On a piece of paper.
In your head?
In my head.
You don't need an instrument?
I don't need an instrument.
You write it in your head on is it always on a plane?
90%.
Honey, I write a new album. we need to fly to Australia, so I've got some time.
Particularly, a lot of my arrangements are done on the plane. That doesn't mean that I do not write when I have instrument in front of me, either piano or a guitar. But my majority of work is done on the plane because nobody bothers me. My thoughts and my brain is 110% towards the work. So that's why I basically do most of my major big orchestras arrangement there on the plane.
Well, now you already have the melody, so now you're doing the arrangement and everything.
That's correct.
My question is, when you're writing the essence, let's say the creating the main melody,
sure.
at what point are you thinking about the mother and the kid on the bike and all of the people you just went through that you want to consider? In other words, do you write a melody and then think, I probably shouldn't go to the minor because the lady won't like this? Or do you allow yourself that kind of editing of your own creativity?
First of all, the main person that has to be satisfied out of my writing is myself. So I have to be satisfied first.
Right.
Then I think about different people. Sure, many times it happened when I create the song on the paper, when I put it on the instrument and play it, I say, well, this bar has to be changed. This doesn't make any sense musically or feeling wise. It just doesn't go where I want it to go. That happens, but the main thing happens in my head. Whether I have an instrument in front of me or not, whether I have paper in front of me or not, it just happens there.
We talked about Elton John. He once famously said, I know this because I had the great occasion to be able to interview him a couple of times, and I threw this at him. I said, he had said that some of his biggest hits or his most popular melody, he writes in less than 10 minutes. The big stuff comes to him very quickly.
That happens.
You can't control the moment it's going to come, but is that true for you too?
That is true. That is true. I have some mega hits song like
Sure.
That you might not believe it, but I wrote it when I was working in a grocery store back when I was a student. I'm talking about 40-something years ago. I was working. I wrote it during work, so it shouldn't take more than half an hour because I couldn't concentrate on writing a song while I was working. And then
you mean that melody came to you?
Yes, sir.
And you remembered it in your head?
Yes, sir.
Because you didn't have a dictaphone or you didn't have
I didn't have
recording device. There was no iPhone.
Nothing.
To record it on, right?
No.
So what? You went home from the grocery store, and
as soon as I got off, when something like this happened, I grab a piece of paper, put that stuff on it, 5 lines, put the key, and write whatever I can remember. Just write on those 5 lines, the staff lines. Then when I get home, then I have proper papers, the scores, and sit down and write it down.
See, I want to get to what's really fascinating to me is you're a fusion of so many things. And one of them is you've got one foot in the classical world and you operate like someone like that who would score music, etc. But then you've got this major imprint, your foot in the pop world. Usually people don't do both of those things.
That's
Usually
right.
Even the biggest pop singers don't score things and write down, they'll record the melody or they'll come up with it and sing it to somebody else or something like that. So this is remarkable. Let's go back before the grocery store to you being first introduced to the violin at the age of 2.5, 3 years old. So how does you're still almost a baby. You've just learned to walk. Now, watching you as a violinist now, of course, it would be, how's it doing? Is it okay? It's
okay.
It's holding, the microphone's holding steady.
It's good. It's fine.
You give me anxiety. Don't look over there. It gives me anxiety. The mic's going to fall.
That's my engineering part. I just want to check his
classical world, pop world, engineering world. To know the virtuoso violinist you are now is to go, okay, of course he's been doing this forever since he was a kid. That makes sense. But 3, tell me the story of how at the age of 3 you start playing the violin.
On those days, I used to live in Iran, particularly in that age. There was a program on the radio every day, every single day in the afternoon. I think it was between 1 to 2 o'clock p.m. Each day, a maestro, on different instrument would come to the station and play live.
Is that Golha?
No, that's not Golha. Golha was with our full orchestra. This is solo.
Okay.
What I'm talking about, this particular program is a solo. Saz tanha means instrument by itself.
By itself. Yeah.
One day, Master Tajvidi would come to the radio and play his violin. Another day, Mr. Maestro Yohaki would do the same thing. Another day, Mr. Paivar on Santur would do. Another day, Kasai with his ney would do, you know. And as I was told by my parents, I loved that program, and I would sit and every single day I would listen from beginning to the end, and nobody would bother me because they would see that how deep I'm in it. But among all these things, and I owe it to my father that recognized that among all these sounds, violin is the one that I'm just out of this world. Yeah, I'm not there anymore. He recognized that. So we went to, as far as I remember, he bought me a violin, a handmade Italian violin, 1/8. 1/8 is that big. It's like
a tiny violin.
1 foot.
Okay.
A tiny, maybe less. But it was handmade, Italian. I exactly remember that those days, I'm talking about 62 years ago, you know, 1,500 commands meant a lot. It was very, very, very valuable. You could probably buy a villa with it, with that amount of money.
What an amazing father that he saw this in you.
He is. He was always my mentor and my hero. Yeah, because what can you expect from a 2.5 years old kid?
To even notice that.
Exactly.
And so you get this little violin.
I get this little violin, very, very expensive one. I remember that he discussed the talent in me with a maestro in Tehran, and he said, don't let Bijan touch this instrument at all, because he would think, since he's a child, he would think this is a toy. Let them know and make sure that he knows this is not a toy. This is serious. So what they did, they hid the violin for 6 months out of my hand, and every day I would see it, on the top of my mother's cupboard, up there, and I was dying to touch that instrument and play with it somehow. Instead, my father hired a very, very good maestro who used to teach in Horanistan in the conservatory. And he started, before me touching the violin, the actual instrument, he started teaching me the alphabet of the music, the notes, and what is C, what is A, what is A sharp, what is B flat, what is C sharp, all these things. So eventually, before I even put my hand on the instrument, I could read music. I could write music.
Wow.
Yeah, I could solfege. I could hear some music.
You understood the language of music at that early an age. It's almost like the equivalent is now you see a kid with a new with an iPad, just going at the age of 3. They're doing things that it would take us weeks to learn because they're just immersed in it, right?
Exactly. And remember this, and in that age, I was not able to read or write regular language, Farsi. I couldn't.
This was your first language.
Music was your first language, and I couldn't write it in Farsi, so I could remember it later on to correct myself or to teach myself or practice or rehearse. So everything had to be memorized by my father as well. So my father was present at all my.
Was your father? Was it?
Musician? No.
But was he telling you to do this, or did you really gravitate towards this yourself?
I really did gravitate towards myself, but if it wasn't because of my father's discipline, I wouldn't have get where I was or where I am, because in that age, kids get tired. They want to go play.
Sure.
Right. So there has to be somebody has to be there in order to control that energy, control those moments. My father was the one.
So where are you on the nature nurture debate? I mean, do you believe that, because certainly there's nurturing going on here, your hours and hours of practice at that early an age is going to lead to you to potentially to be a maestro, but it also feels like most 3-year-olds wouldn't be able to do that.
Exactly.
So do you believe it's nature, or do you believe it's nurture? Do you believe you were just born with a gift?
Kind of both. I believe that I was born with that urge, with that how could I put it in words? Liking music, and also that rehearsing, discipline, if any of these weren't there, this package wouldn't be completed.
I see. Right.
It wouldn't be completed. You could become a musician like millions and millions and millions of people. They're musicians around the world, but not many of them, they have their own signature in the world.
Right. And so the story is, by the age of 7, you become this multi-instrumentalist. You have a facility on the piano, on the drums, on the guitar, on some of those stringed instruments, the santur, etc. That the most interesting part of that is, it says to me that this kid is really has found his passion. If you're that interested in playing different instruments by that age, that can't be a directive from your parents. You must, I mean, that's got to be a real expression of you finding your passion, right?
That's correct. I love it. You ask great questions, very interesting questions. When I started playing the violin, the sound of that instrument was I was inspired by it. You know, it was in my heart. I would feel the sound, the quality of sound of the violin. But gradually, like when I was like 5 years old, I wanted to touch piano, play a little organ, play a little guitar, because I loved music, you know, regardless of the sound, of the quality of the sound. So, but those days, the ability of buying a piano in a Islamic country, however, it was way before revolution.
Yeah.
But anyway, our country is based on, you know, these things. I remember that my neighbor was one of these Ahund guys, and they were keep objecting. They play music next door. They won't let us sleep at night. All this crap, you know. So even with that situation, it was almost very hard to buy different instrument like drums and put it in your house and practice every day, or piano. So I was so involved and in love with music. Believe me, please, I'm not exaggerating this. If you remember those days, the school, you know, like 3rd grade or 4th grade, you know, we didn't have single seats. We had those benches that, you know, 2 or 3 people would sit on.
Where is this? What part?
Tehran.
In Tehran.
Tehran,
Yeah.
yes. Regular. I'm talking about regular.
And this
schools.
is the 1960s, probably, right? That's,
Yeah, 1962, 1, 2. Yeah.
Right.
Honest to God, I used to put my finger on the bench and I start playing. Honest to God, playing right and left hand, and I would stop myself. I said, "Oh, yeah, I made a mistake there." Without no claviers, no sound, no nothing. So that's what I'm saying. I was so damn involved and in love with this thing that I would play on a piece of wood and correct myself. That is the interesting part. And correct myself, you know. That means I was hearing what I was playing on a piece of wood.
Wow.
Yes.
You correct yourself. So I moved my finger the wrong way. Right. Yeah. On the bench that nobody can hear. That's fascinating. By the time you're 14, again, as the story goes, you can corroborate, tell me if this is true. You're composing, and you put together an orchestra.
I was 11.
So how did the composing piece happen? I mean, how did you learn that how did you even know that you could compose? I mean, there's sort of a green light that has to go on in somebody's head to feel like I can do this. I can actually, you know, not just reinterpret or do what the masters are doing, but I can actually come up with something myself.
I love your questions, man. It's beautiful. At the very, very beginning, when I said 11, I was on a stage with a big orchestra on 11. That doesn't mean that I wrote the piece on 11.
Okay.
I was like 9, 10 when I wrote the piece, Epic. It is on my second album, Epic. I wrote it when I was 10 and a half, 11 years old. Anyway.
You wrote it out. Like you wrote the score. You wrote the sheet music.
The whole thing, yes. The first thing that challenged me in order to compose music was this was my vision. Okay, Bijan on a stage with a humongous, big orchestra. The numbers would go up to 200 people, 200 musicians. And a little kid, I would see myself as a little kid. I couldn't imagine myself as a young guy, or a man, grown man, and playing my own compositions, and millions of people were listening and enjoying it. This was my first click. This was my first click. Okay, then that's why Epic was my first one of my first composition that I did, and it is big, it is huge. Just listen to it.
Yes,
it's a 9-minute music.
Yes,
God, for a 8 years old kid, Iranian. Well, if I was from Vienna or Austria, that would have been different story. Because
it still would have been remarkable. But yeah, the fact that you're a kid in Tehran in the 60s,
yeah, exactly. It wasn't that popular, these sort of things to happen, and that drove me.
And the Ahun didn't appreciate it next door either.
Obviously, that would have that was my starting point to empty my energy, to put it on the paper and make a big, huge orchestral composition. No words, no lyrics, just music.
Would adults listen to you?
Okay, that was a good thing that I did in my career, that I always appreciate myself. I did not release my composition soon. Why I say that? Because I always say this to my students or fans who come to my concerts or start playing some sort of instrument. I tell them that is very natural for a musician to like to write, to create something. Okay, but definitely it is not a reached production. Why? Because you are still learning. Doesn't matter how old you are. When you start, you're a learner. You're a student. It just doesn't make any sense for a student to create something. Definitely that creation is not going to be a complete one. It's not going to be a rich one. It's not going to be a, you know what I mean? So what I did, I wrote many songs, as well as learning many songs from different composers, like Mr. Rouhani, for example, or from Ustad Tajvidi, or Yahaqi, or Strauss, learning, just learning. I put it in my hard drive to my brain. I didn't release them, and that was the good part. Why? Because when I started to create and when I started to release, there was millions of pieces and bits in my brain that if I would
think the RAM would be full at that point.
Still is not, but
all that storage.
If you would, go towards any of them and just touch them melodically or harmony-wise, you would be full of elements, full of items, right? Your knowledge is going to be big, right? And versus somebody, he only have like 1 megabyte information in his brain.
At that point, though, the music you're interested in is more in the classical vein, right? Like were you? I mean, by the late '60s, are you into the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and stuff like that? Is
both
that
of them?
You were
both, classical and pop, both of them. Beatles or Elton John or Shahram Shahpare, for example, or many of these singers that we had those days, on both of them.
Okay, so here's the thing. But I tend to think one of the things I've learned in my life is that one of the tricks of life, and one of the people that I feel like we should all envy, are the people who know what they want to do in life at an early age. You're at a huge, and there's people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s and still don't know what what their passion is, what they want to do. And then there's the kid who's 10 years old and really knows what they want. I want to be a football player, and they become Messi, or I want to be an astronaut, and this is what I'm going to do. You're that person. I mean, you knew what your passion was. Not only did you know what your passion was, you start winning awards. It's clear that you're a musical child prodigy. It's clear that you have all of this. And it's pre-revolution Iran, so it's not like music has been banned or anything. So it's very curious to me that with that backdrop, you go to England and study civil engineering.
As much as I loved music, I loved piloting, being a pilot, boxing, and making houses and freeways. Honest to God, that I had in my mind since I was a very, very kid, early age.
That's a diversity of occupations.
And believe it or not, I pursue all of them.
You pursued boxing?
Yes, I did.
Were you a good boxer?
I was a good boxer.
When were you boxing?
Where?
When?
14, 15, 16, even 17. And do wrestling as well. But soon I recognized that my face is going to be, this. I mean, it would be.
Your handsome face will be affected by the boxing.
By boxing.
The punches. Yeah.
Yes. Piloting, I still do. Civil engineering, I went to school for it.
So the civil engineering thing wasn't a Iranian kind of. Music's not a real career. You have to become an engineer. Was it that, or was it that you really loved it? You wanted to go and study civil engineering?
I wanted it. Yes.
That's weird to me.
Yes, I know.
You're this into music, and you're this passionate about it. You're writing all this stuff, and you go study civil engineering.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's a Persian dream. Don't get me wrong. My mother would look at me and say, "Why didn't you do this?" But I mean, it's so curious to me.
I know. But from the very beginning. The first day I was double majored in University of Texas in Austin, UT.
That's in America. By the time you get to America, yes. I'm talking about England.
England, no. England. I was you had to pass A level, O level. Their system, and it was too soon to be double majored. So, but I started civil engineering there, and still playing music. And my professor was Mrs. Hans. God bless her soul. She was so great. She was so fantastic, and she was encouraging me all the time. And she gave me a room with a brand new piano.
Wow.
She gave me the key, and she said, "Doesn't matter what time it is. You can come over here. This is your key. You can practice. You can play whatever, whenever, and for how long you want. You want to practice. It's yours. Doesn't matter how long you want." So I was playing and pursuing music as well when I was in England. But academically, yes, of course, it was civil engineering until this revolution happened. Then I had to transfer.
So so it's 1979 now. You've been in the UK. You end up going to the US, and I've got to assume would the plan have been to return to Iran otherwise, or did you always have this idea of going to the States?
No. My plan from the very beginning when I left Iran was, finishing my study and come back to Iran.
Okay.
Come back to Iran. But those days, we didn't have any idea that this would have happened.
And by 79, you're seeing the writings on the wall. You're seeing that this thing ain't going to be the place for a musician right now.
That's right. I didn't complete my studying, so I had to complete it. I had to continue and complete, achieve something in my hand. So in England, I couldn't work. Obviously, the bank relation wasn't that good with Iran. So my father couldn't support me for my studying, because it was me and my brother, my younger brother. We both left Iran together. So he couldn't support us. Obviously, he sent money for 5 times, and it was in the bank. We wouldn't get it released and spend it or pay the fees or this and that. So we had to work, although it was a illegal work, but we had to do it in order to survive.
Was that the grocery store?
Grocery store, cleaning tables, parking cars, cooking food. Everything. Legitimate, of course. So we had to transfer from England, because in England we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. We couldn't support ourselves, and it was dangerous. So we had to. I moved to Texas. To the States. Continued my study, then started supporting myself.
Well, you didn't just move to the States. You moved to Texas. Nothing wrong with Texas, but 1979 into 1980. In Texas, in America, at a time when, for people who weren't born then or don't know this or remember this, it was extremely, I know this because I was a kid and I remember, it was very difficult to be Iranian in the West, let alone in Texas, I would imagine. With the revolution happens, Iran becomes the enemy of the States. Every night on the news, they're talking about this horrible, horrible place called Iran, etc. And then the hostage crisis happens. Tell me about your experience as a young man in Texas around that time.
Not only me, not only all the Iranians, but people that had the same resemblance, like Arabs, like Venezuelan people from Venezuela. They are very much, look like us. They all had their passport in the pocket, in their back pocket, because it was dangerous. But for us Iranian, it was, believe me, it was nightmare. It was nightmare. There wasn't a night that I wouldn't receive a note from Americans. I don't know. My assumption that it was from Americans. That blah 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 blah, all this swearing that you go back to your home. What are you
really
doing? I swear to God, every single night.
Where were these notes given to you?
Under the door.
Slipping under your door. In a dorm? Were you in a university?
No, my apartment.
You were in an apartment. And they knew you were Iranian, and they would drop these notes.
Yes, as I said, even if I was an Arab, the same thing would have happened to me.
Right.
But in dorms were even more dangerous. One day I was working in a restaurant and I had to quit at 11 o'clock, quit job at 11, go to school because I had classes at the school. When I got to the school, I didn't have a car. I couldn't afford to buy a car. So when I got to the university, I saw a line of like 30, 35 Bigfoot truck. These trucks, big trucks with big tires, Bigfoot. They call it Bigfoot. With Texan with cowboy hat on,
all right,
and with a baseball bat, had a lot of what do you call it? Not the poster, the
protest signs or something, or what?
Something like protest sign, something
billboards or
small billboards in their hand that go back and blah 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 blah. Go back to your home.
To you.
To everybody, to all Iranian, because there were many students in it. And then at night when I got, and they closed our school, sent us back home. When I got home at night, in the news, I heard that there was a bomb in our school. In dormitory, it was even more dangerous than.
And how would you deal with this? Were you someone? I mean, you've been a boxer. Would you react? Would you get angry? Would you fight? Or would you? Were you able to sort of take it in stride? How were you depressed? I mean, tell me what went on with you at that age?
Definitely, depression was something that we had all in common. Definitely. Depression was very, very heavy, but I can talk about myself. I don't know about other kids, but for one thing, I couldn't fight back. One was I was representing my people. I didn't want these Texans who are wilder than anybody else on the earth. Tell everybody else that these wild Iranian. I didn't want to hear this. I just didn't want to hear.
You want to play into some kind of stereotype.
Yeah. That's so. That was one reason. Second reason was I didn't want to get involved with officers. Law, because I was a student. I was under, my status was student visa, so they could deport me as easy as 1, 2, 3. The third thing was, again, I didn't want to get myself in a position that I didn't have any help. We didn't have my father, my mother. Nobody was around us. We were by ourselves. Just imagine a 17, 18 years old kid in a totally strange country.
How was your English? Were you proficient at that point, or was it clear that you're? I mean, I guess it would be clear you're an immigrant, but of course, yeah.
My English was good because when I was in London, I was the first. I got the first grade on the class, particularly on the English. So my English wasn't that bad. But anyway, that is not the issue. It was that we felt so alone. We didn't have anybody. We didn't have law to back us up. Yeah. We didn't have enough budget, enough capital to back us up. We didn't have enough relative to back us up. We had nobody.
Yeah.
We just had nobody.
And again, I tell people, it's because if they weren't here at the time, they don't know just how bad it was. how much the idea of the enemy Iranian terrorist or whatever had been created in the minds of Americans and people in the West. That it was very, very difficult. It was a very, very difficult time, and I can't imagine it could have been easy for you because you're alone too, right? In the sense that your family is still back in Iran. Was your brother with you in Texas?
He was with me, and I got married to a lady, Iranian lady, but we got divorced a few years after because we were in a good match anyway. But I had those responsibility on my back as well. I was just not by myself.
Right.
However, in a positive point, if you want to look at it, I had somebody, I wasn't that alone, but to really, really look at it, you have responsibility towards somebody else's except yourself.
Yes.
So that is big.
By 1985, when you moved to California, was that liberating? You go to a place where there's an Iranian community, and you, the hostage crisis now 4 years earlier. There's a horrible war going on back in Iran. But was it somehow? Did you somehow find your home in California as soon as you got there, or did it still feel like you were in a foreign place?
No, I still felt that I was in a foreign place. I was lost. I didn't know where I was. I know that I was in California, and it was beautiful, and there was a lot of Iranian. It wasn't like Texas or New York or Washington. It was California. Most majority of Iranian fled Iran, but they were in California. But it wasn't home for me. It wasn't a home for me, I one day I would say I would go back to Texas. Another day I said, wow, when this Iran situation is going to get good, so I could go back to my own, own country. Or the other day I would say, no, this is a great place. I gotta stay here. I have friends here. We weren't certain. We were lost. I was at least. You know what I mean? I was doing the thing that I was supposed to do, but deep down, this is the feeling that I'm expressing to you.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I belong. Is this my city? Is this where I want to spend my rest of my life here, or am I going to go back to Texas? Am I going to go back to Iran? What's going to happen?
Has that ever changed, Bijan? Do you feel? Do you still feel a little bit like where is my home, or do you now feel like California makes sense to you?
Good question. California, obviously, since '85, it's like what 2020 is 30 something years, right? 37 years. Yeah, 37 years. 37 years is a lifetime, right? And I accomplished a lot of things there in California. Plus, I got famous there. I got the chance to work over there. I was given those chances, so I never forget, and I love it. It's beautiful. The weather is fantastic. We have like almost 1.5 million people, the Iranian people, and that they all love me. They all respect me. They all know who I am. But your home country, your homeland is your motherland. It's something else. I still have a lot of feeling for that country, Iran. However, sometimes when I sit by myself, I think, okay, what if one day they take all Iranian out of Iran and put like Japanese or American, African American there, or French people there, non-Iranian? Would I have still the same feeling for that country? Is it the soil? Is it the
what an interesting question.
Yeah,
what an interesting question. What's your answer?
The reason that Iran is Iran for me is because of the breath that the people are taking. I have a feeling towards them. I have memories with them. The culture comes from these individual people, not from the bricks, not from the alleys, not from the rivers. Although I love them, because that creates a lot of memories for me. I grew up there, Maybe Switzerland, not maybe, definitely Switzerland has better and more beautiful places than Iran. But 1 centimeter of that piece in Iran is more valuable to me because I think that it's mine. That is the reason that so many memories was created in me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people are the reason, obviously, but unfortunately, for past few years, 20, 30, 40 years, under pressure, under anger, under sadness, under loss, under insecurity, these people have changed big time. I barely know them anymore. You know what I mean?
The people of Iran.
Yeah, we speak the same language.
A lot of them are your fans.
I know, and I'm writing for these people, for my fans, so I have to know them very, very well. You know, I remember the reason that I'm saying this because, as I said, please pay attention. When I started talking about people, I started with under pressure, under sadness, under, these were the facts. These are important facts that can change your whole thing.
Absolutely.
Your culture, your beliefs, your behavior. This could be changed. So I remember when I was a kid.
Or a lack of hope. Nihilism for young people.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is, to me, that is the most important thing. Loss of hope. I remember when I was a kid, a young man or a young woman or a teenager would, if they definitely be devastated for like $1 to ask you, it would probably take them a week to get that guts to come forward and ask you for $1 for a help. Honest to God, I'm not exaggerating. This is the truth. Now I get at least 100, 150 a day message through Instagram. My admin all the time, 24 hours, calling me, doctor, we have received this. Doctor, we have received this. We have received this. And when I read them, everybody is so as if it is nothing. It is so natural. It is so normal.
They're asking you for money.
This, why do you drive a Porsche and we don't have a car? Why do you eat? Why are you happy? Give us money. I'm a cameraman. I saw this camera for $4,000. Buy it and send it to this address. They demand for this. I mean, what is this? These are not the people that I know.
Right.
I still have a lot of respect for them.
Yes.
They are my, they're from the same country as I am, but the behavior is totally changed. Totally changed. I barely know these behaviors.
Does that make you sad?
Very, very much. Very much. We came from a very, very rich country with a very rich culture, with fabulous people. They care for each other. At least they used to care for each other. They would die for each other. They would go out of their way to help a neighbor. Now it's not there anymore. It is not there anymore.
But as you say, if you're living in desperation, you don't have the luxury to try and be a quote unquote good person, or a polite person, I suppose.
That makes me sad. You asked me if depression was what it. I said yes, deep depression. If you remember a few minutes ago, you asked me this question. So the depression came from these things. I'm a human being myself. I'm not a metal. So all these things affects on me. And remember, I'm an artist. So if these things doesn't affect on me, I'm not being good.
Let me get to the artist part. I want to get to because we've done the build up, but I actually want to talk a little bit about your career. And by 1990, you released that first album that becomes a bestseller. Let me set the stage for it. Actually, I want to play a little bit of a song called Ashiqichiye. Tell us a bit about this song before we play it.
This is the song that I wrote in the grocery store.
Is this the song in the grocery store?
One.
All right, let's hear a little bit of it.
عشقمی قشنگتری بهانه‌ای برای زنده بودنم تو بهترین نشونی تو بهترین دلیل دل برای بودنم شدی نبودی از تنم جدا که پاره تنم شدی.
From 1990 on the album The Magic of Bijan, the bestseller debut album. That's the song Aashiqi Chiye, Love.
What is love?
What is it?
Yeah,
Kind of a cynical song, right?
Yeah. I wrote this song in 1979 and I released it in 1990. I wrote it when I just told you, when I used to work in a I was a student and I used to work in a grocery store, so, convenience store actually.
Does the grocery store get a commission of the royalties from this song? Do you send
No. It was a convenience store actually. It was something like 7-Eleven.
Right.
I don't know whether you have it here or not.
Sure,
Yeah.
Wow. That album and that song, I mean, you're this accomplished multi-instrumentalist. Now you're singing as well. How big a deal was it for you to be putting yourself out there as a singer?
Singing was a part of our music lessons, like guitar, like piano, like violin, like solfege. We had to sing. So I knew very well how to sing, or how to, as you can tell now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry to say this, but in our culture, in Iranian culture, unfortunately, songwriters, good musicians, lyricists, they're always behind the curtain.
Yes.
At least they used to be. Now it's getting better and better. Always the singer was in the front line.
The star.
The star was the singer.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good of a composer you used to be or you are, you would be behind the curtain. Nobody would recognize
Also,
you.
in a lot of cases, it surprised me learning about in Iranian music. It's often divided. In Western music, it's not a surprise that the Beatles write and sing their own songs. It's less so the case in Iranian music.
That's right.
You're more of an exception that you write and perform the songs.
That's right. That's correct. So sometimes when I think of this, I say to myself that how smart I was, because I thought, if I wanted people to hear my music, I just couldn't expose myself as a musician. Doesn't matter how good I am. They don't have a place in their mind for a good musician or a good composer, but they always have an empty space in their mind for a singer.
Right.
Doesn't matter if it's a bad or good. They get famous. And they get that chance to be heard. So I said, well, this is if I want to do this correct way, I have to go this path. So I chose that path. I wrote for myself and I performed it myself.
Do you feel as did you? Obviously now you would. Did you feel as confident being a singer as you were a violinist?
Very much. Very, very much. Very much.
Even though the violin, you've been the famous since 3 years old.
Yes.
You felt like you can. You seem like someone musically who could pick up and do anything.
Exactly. Exactly. My friend, I have a very good friend who's a fantastic guitar player. He says, Bijan, when you play the guitar, believe me, you play more comfortable and better than him. I said, well, that's very nice of you, but that's the truth. Whatever I grab, if it is musical, I'm extremely uncomfortable with it. Singing doesn't matter. If it's a guitar, doesn't matter. Oud doesn't matter. Violin, it's okay. Piano, fine. Percussion, definitely fine. So I'm very, very comfortable with music.
How much did that album change your life?
Very much. Very, very much so. Imagine working for like 4 or 5 hours, $1 a day, an hour, became almost $1 million a year. Very much.
Did you have any idea when you made that record that it was going to explode the way it did?
Not 99%, 110%.
Oh, really? You knew?
I swear to God, I knew it, yes. I knew it, yeah. I knew it.
Confident guy you are. You know these things. These are. You knew that was going to be a best-selling album.
Listen, Jian, I had some element in my hands that almost nobody had. What was those elements? What were those elements? One, I was performing on a stage. Means I knew how people would react to what. I knew what people would like to hear. I knew how to get to their feelings. I knew all the instruments. I knew how to write. I knew how to arrange. I had enough experience on a stage. You give me 5 songs that I can perform 1 hour for you. I had all those elements, And plus, I knew, as I just said, I knew this is it. That's it. I'm gonna hit it there.
In the aftermath of that debut album, you start touring internationally, and you start playing. I mean, the list is incredible. You do Royal Albert Hall and the Kodak Theater and these prominent venues on this international tour. And of course, famously, you become the first Iranian to play the Greek Theater.
That's right.
Which is, for people around the world listening who don't know it, it's a very famous venue in Los Angeles and it's a very large venue too. It's thousands of seats and
7,200 seats in the middle of a Hollywood forest.
And this you did with a 60-piece orchestra
That's right.
of some kind.
59, yes.
So tell me about that. What did it mean for the kid from Iran who had the boyhood dream of playing his music in front of a large audience? And I know you played the song that you wrote when you were, right?
Exactly.
Tell me about that experience. Then we're going to play a little bit of it.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I was waiting until you finish your sentences that I would go back to like 20 minutes ago when I said my vision started with the click of being on a stage with so many people playing my composition. That's why I wrote Epic. So that was epic. So that,
even the song's called Epic.
yeah,
And
song
the experience is
epic.
epic, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. I finally achieved what I dreamt all the time, what I wanted to achieve. So here was people, 7,200 people, sold out concert, beautiful, magnificent venue, great musicians, all from Symphony Orchestra of Los Angeles, great songs. People showed me that they loved my music, so it had to be great. Everything was there, so that's it. I got what I wanted.
Were you able at the time to understand what was happening, that you were living your dream?
Yes.
You were?
Yes.
That's beautiful that you
Yes.
could do that.
Yes. Let me tell you a secret. I started at October 20th, 1990. That was the day that I released my album through Caltex Recording, this Ashaichiyat album. October 20, 1990, right? Till 93, I used to do 32 gigs a month. 32 gigs.
A month?
A month. Average of 32. Sometimes 34, sometimes 28, 29.
So you do more than one gig a day?
A day.
In some case.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday didn't mean anything. So everything was from Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Well, Friday was Sabbath, obviously. Saturday and Sunday. So sometimes 3 gigs a day. Sometimes 4 gigs a day, right? I was like the master of doing gigs. Okay, and that's what I made my my
bread and butter.
Bread and butter,
Right.
exactly. 93, all of a suddenly I announced that that's it, no more gigs. All of a sudden, I stopped all my gigs, all of it. It is very hard for somebody who does 32 gigs a month to stop all of a sudden. So it means that you're on your peak, and then you announce that it is it. That's it, done. I wanted better level. This is to answer your question whether I knew what was happening in Greek theater or not. I planned for it. I didn't go anywhere for a year. I didn't make a penny for a year because I wanted to make people thirsty for my music, for my items. I didn't want people to eat dinner and listen to my music. I wanted people to pay high price and come just for my music and sit down and listen to my music, nothing else. Not being invited by somebody and then listen to Bijan's music. No, I wanted them to come for this music, this particular music. So I wanted to know my true fans. So I knew what I was doing. Yeah.
I want to play a little bit of Dance of Fire from that concert, 1994. Play it just to build it up. And by the way, this has almost 2 million views on YouTube.
This
video of your live performance. Describe this piece that we're hearing.
This one is very, very interesting. I remember one night I was doing a gig, right? I don't remember whether it was a wedding or a regular party. I don't remember that, but it was in a very big venue. And when I had my break, in the break, when my musicians were having dinner, this melody came to my mind. I said, "Wow, this is great!" And I was actually playing it with my hand with a fork and knife, And then I said, in the middle of the dinner, I told my musician, "Get up, let's go on stage." He said, "Well, we still have like 15, 20 minutes." I said, "No, right now." And I went up there, and immediately I played this without even writing it on a piece of paper or being it played before. No, that was the first time, and I played this. Then obviously I polished it, and it became Dance of Fire. But the click was there that night, and I played like 4 minutes of it. I was just playing it. It was just keep coming.
There's videos on the internet that call you, that some of them say the world's best violin player.
No, I'm not the best violin player.
Are you competitive? Do you like the idea? I mean, do you want to be the world's best violin player?
I want to be the world's best violin player, but I'm not. There are many, many better violin players than I am.
How do you feel when people say things like that about you?
Well, that's very, very nice of them. They give me extra energy. But as far as Middle Eastern music, yes, I am the best violin player in the world. But Eastern music, Middle Eastern music is not is not the ultimate music. We have classical, fabulous music, and there are better violin players than me on that aspect, on that field.
When you do a performance like the Greek theater one, like in a couple of minutes I want to play a little bit of you in Istanbul last year with a big orchestra. Is it a different mindset from when you're doing more of a Bijan Mortazavi pop concert? In other words, are you the same Bijan? Or do you have to kind of think in different terms as you enter that stage?
No, because I'm not playing somebody else's composition. I'm playing my own composition. So whatever is happening there, I wrote it. I know it. Doesn't matter if it's with 4 instruments, or is it pop, or is it classical orchestra. It just doesn't matter, because I know every little, as I said, triangle is going to happen in next 4 bars. I know it. So I'm very comfortable, and the same thing for me.
You get this honorary doctorate in 2009. You do a bunch of teaching.
Yes.
And you said that one of your goals was to expand Persian music all over the world. Do you still have that aspiration?
Sure.
And if so, how do we do that?
Sure. Unfortunately, politics always affect on many things that it doesn't need to be affected by politics, like sport, like art. Olympic is made for this, being away from politics. If you're a sportsman, do your things without concerning about your belief politically. But in reality, it is not true. It definitely does affect political things. Does affect. I'm an American citizen. I've been in America for past 6 years, but I'm still an Iranian. So the doors are not being opened that easy for me, because there are many negative thoughts about my country. However, I haven't been there, but I'm from that part of the world. Mm-hmm. So that I don't want to get very deep into that, but that affects on it, right? What I wanted, and I always have dream of doing it, is what is being taught in different universities is the international scale of music. Okay, let me be a little more specific on that part. Mm-hmm. For example, if they want to teach a chord or a harmony to a student, they would start with a major, for example, D major or G major, right? Okay, and then they start developing it, tell them where A stands, where B stands, where C stands, how you can do counterpoint on that particular key, so forth, right? The international music has, imagine a piano. the white keys, claves, and the black claves. For example, G, the next black one is the G sharp, right? The next white one is an A natural, right?
Yes.
It's still that G sharp becomes A flat for the next white one.
Yes.
Right? Correct? So everything is around this, but Middle Eastern music, particularly Iran music, there is
something in between.
There is something in between,
Yes.
before and after it, which makes a huge difference. That is serving at least 600-700 million people around the world. Yeah, Iranian, Turkish, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, India. Well, India, considering India, we're going to go more than 1 point something billion.
Right.
So that has something to say. These things has something to say, but it is not being taught in universities. They don't cover it. It's just not being.
And
there.
you think? I mean, you started off by talking about politics. You think that's partly political? The fact that Persian music isn't taught as much.
Well, that putting these courses in university is the next steps. It has to start with another things in order for the politics and the art to go along with each other. You know what I mean? Then it will become another step, then maybe finally putting these courses in the university and have professors for them, teachers for them, and books for them being written, and then sure.
It's partly your mission, it seems, to do fusions to bring East and West together creatively and musically, right? I mean, we hear it in the music
yes.
that you make.
Correct.
That's a conscious decision on your part.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes. Okay. I've been taught classical and Persian classical, both. I can play both of them. So, me being Iranian, with those feelings and with those lessons and with those style of playing, definitely I will come to a point that since I know both of them, I'm not just being unison on one of them. I know both of them. So there definitely I come to a point that I want to combine them, see what is going to come up out of their combination, right? So I got to that point. So whatever I'm writing is the production of combination of these two knowledge together.
How do you deal with traditionalists who don't like that, who want you to play a more traditional, by the book Eastern style classical music or Western?
I have a lot of respect for them, as I have a lot of respect for rapists. People who do rap, I don't understand anything, but I do have a lot of respect for that. That is the beauty of the word anyway. The word has to have different colors, whether I like it or I don't. I pick the color that I like. You pick the color that you like. That is the beauty.
But something that I really love about you is you don't seem to, amongst the many things, is you don't seem to have one color. I mean, you, especially when someone's as accomplished as you are and is a star, it's usually not a surprise if they have one particular sound or thing. You still feel like, even now, to me, correct me if I'm wrong,
sure,
like an explorer. You're a musical, creative, cultural explorer. You had this piece called Malaga,
yes.
from just a few years ago.
Yes.
And it's got this whole Latin thing, and
that's
I know
right.
you spent some time in Spain.
That's right.
So you go and you absorb that, and then it's in your music. And what I love about that is that you're obviously exploring and you're interested, but you're also not beholden to this
one thing.
Bijan brand that I can't possibly put the Spanish groove on this. That's not my thing. Tell me about that exploration.
Yeah, unfortunately, some people are like that. Once they're stick with something, that's it. They just can't see or do anything on the left side or on the right side. Understanding and seeing the way that I lived for past 40-50 years, I experienced many things. Among my abilities, definitely my abilities would affect on my experience on life, and definitely experiencing life would affect on my abilities. Means you recognize it very, very good and exactly what I feel and what I'm capable of. If you remember, I told you when I started learning, I didn't want to compose. Even when I composed, I didn't release. I just captured. You remember?
Yeah.
And I said, my hard drive was getting fuller and fuller.
Yes.
Okay, that comes from there. My brain, my feelings, my knowledge is full of this stuff. One day, if I have to write an African piece, I'm able to do that. I can do that, because I don't have to go study. I did my study. It is in my brain. It just clicks. As like Malaga, that piece Malaga was in Spain, as you mentioned it correctly. And obviously, we all people from Middle East, they love Spanish music because Spain was under rule of Islam for 400 or 500
is that why
years.
I
Yes, sir.
wondered about that.
Of course.
Everything
yes.
from flamenco to the Spanish groups. Iranians
Absolutely.
love that stuff.
Absolutely. Even if you dig in more, even in the flamenco, you see like 80% minor keys, minor scale than major scale.
And
minor
we like
scale, we love that. Yes. Yes.
We traffic in the minor stuff.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The more qanqeen.
Yes. and sweeter because major is nice, as American and Western music do a lot of major, but it is not as sweet as. That's why when you see an American write a minor music, it is a mega hit, no matter what, around the world. When they write a minor,
it's more satisfying to me, the minor.
Full of.
I love you as a musical explorer. I've kept you so long, and I'm so grateful for the time you've given us. So
You're so welcome, sir.
Trust me that we'll wrap up before too long here.
No worries.
Let me just ask you a little bit about the last couple of years. I guess there was probably, I'm guessing you, like everybody else in the world, was affected by COVID and that you couldn't tour. You did this big show in Istanbul. That's Bijan Mortazavi. Sorry, I stepped on the ending from 2021. A little taste of his live performance in Istanbul last year. Now, who is that orchestra?
Who is that orchestra? They're part of Istanbul Symphony Orchestra.
So did you score that whole thing?
The whole
as
thing.
well?
The whole thing.
Everything we just heard.
Everything
you've given them the sheet music.
Yes, sir.
It's remarkable to me. It's remarkable that you do all of that. And you still, actually, first tell me about the piece we just heard. We'll in reality, we'll play a longer version of it in the interview. Tell me a bit about what we just heard.
This piece is called Zagros. If you listen more to this piece, it is symphonically. I start with like a cappella, then I go to a rhythm thing, to a movement. However, I put them all in one piece, but all these movements are coming one after each other. Then all of a sudden I stopped doing with what I was doing with the whole orchestra and bringing the new wave of rhythm, disco type combined with the orchestra together. If this music would be played for another 3-4 seconds, we would get to that spot. So this is the nature of Zagros, coming from somewhere, going through another country, then cover the whole south part of my country, and then go down, go up. another point was my ability to combine these two, sort of music together, symphonically and disco type music together.
You clearly love performing.
Sure.
Your tour, you do a lot of shows, and you've just come. You're in Canada now. You've just done a bunch of dates in Germany.
Sure, that's right. And I'm going back to Europe again.
And you're going back to Europe.
A couple of days.
How
after
do you keep yourself healthy?
Now, well, I came from a very, very healthy, genetically very healthy family, from my father's side and my mother's side. Some of these champions in wrestling in Iran who brought a few gold medals to Iran, they are my mother's cousin, my mother's first cousin, or my dad's first cousin. So genetically, we are very, thank God, physically we are okay. Plus, I used to work out from my very, very early age. I never touched anything which is bad for your body, like drugs, things like that.
Never?
Never, ever.
You've never done any drugs?
Never any drugs in my whole life. Never,
Zero?
Ever. Zero. Zilch.
And no interest in it?
No interest in it. Sometimes I used to smoke some cigarettes. Very tafrihi, time to time. Socially, time to time. But that's it.
What about drinking?
Drinking for past 25 years,
You've been drinking heavily for the last 25 years.
No. No, for the last 25 years, maybe once sip a year in a gathering together.
Wow.
Yeah, very close family or friends.
I mean, that's very interesting. You never bought into the romance of that stuff.
Never, ever.
The romance of the artist has to be self-abusing by doing drugs.
No. I was exactly against it since my childhood. I don't know where I got it from. But when I was 12, 13 years, 14 years old, definitely I would have seen my friends, my other musicians, that they would do drugs or, drink. But even from that, honest to God, what I'm saying is true, honestly, the truth. Even on that age, I was so against being out of yourself, being able to musically perform. Means I didn't believe on a musician using a drug in order to be able to play, using drink to be able to play. I didn't believe that.
Somehow.
No. There's nothing to do with being creative. You have to be you. If it is your music, if it is your hands, if it is your instrument, you have to be you and play yourself, your things, right? What is it if you are out of yourself? This is not you anymore. By anything, by drink or by
an enhanced version of you.
I don't
do mushrooms and you become this.
I know what
more
you're
creative
saying.
version of yourself.
I know what you're saying, but again, that's not you. Somebody else forced something else.
And you never felt like you were missing out.
No, of course not.
Like,
do you, as a listener, do you miss anything in my music?
I think you should be. I listen and I go, why isn't he a heroin addict? He needs to do. No, of course he don't. This man needs to do heroin. No, I don't. Of course, I don't think that. But I also know. I mean, I once interviewed. You know who Sonny Rollins is?
No.
A great jazz saxist, and he honestly. I mean, in jazz back in the day in America, they did a lot of drugs, and he said, yeah, it helped my creative. Fertility. I mean, there are some people who will testify to that, or even just smoking pot or something. They'll say that. It's never totally been my thing either. But I do sometimes wonder if I'm missing out by not being more active in that area.
I don't say that they are lying. No. Let's assume that they're 100% right, and it enhanced your thing in order to be a better performer or better composer, right? My belief is if Bijan is this guy with this ability, with these natural things, if I want to enhance something in him, right? This is not going to be Bijan anymore. This is affected by something else. I believed in this when I was 12 years old, 10 years old. That's why I never ever touched anything, because I don't believe in this. If I'm a good performer, I'm a good composer, I must be myself and do a good composition. I must be myself to perform good. if something else is injected to me in order for me to be a better performer,
doesn't feel real to you.
That's not real. No, it's not. It doesn't feel real to me.
That's a perfect segue to a final question, which is, if you're the guy who, the Greek theater gig was 25 years ago now. Mm-hmm. If you hit your dream, then, I mean, what's next? Tell me what fuels you these days. What is if 10-year-old Bijan writing epic was about getting to the Greek theater, now that you got to the Greek theater, what is it that keeps you hungry now?
Yeah. Thank you for asking this question. Very, very important. Very important for me, at least. My dream and my wish, it may not come through, but this is wish, this is a hope. I hope that I can establish schools in Iran, chain schools, like elementary school. A kid has to go to elementary school, right? Mm-hmm. He cannot sit at home. He has to go to elementary school. My wish is to be able to establish a chain school of music in Iran, in every little village. That makes the culture, the behavior, the knowledge of a nation higher and higher and higher every day, and clean knowledge, clean behavior. That's my dream.
Where do you start?
Where do I start? I have to start when the government allows me.
Right, I was going to say, it's it's a gargantuan task at this stage. I would.
That's
imagine.
what I say. It might not come. It might not come through, but I really do hope. Do hope, because that is the first thing. The government has to allow me to do this. The government doesn't even allow me to go see my family in Iran.
You can't go and play a gig there, obviously.
Of course not. Of course not. Of course
and
not.
How does that feel to you?
Very, very sad, angry, devastated. It is bad, man. It is bad. As if one day they cut both your hands and tell you have to eat with your feet. Some people, they can do it, but maybe you can do it someday. But at the beginning, you're shocked, you're sad, you're mad. You just can't do it. You're unable. Cutting you off from your motherland is like that. It's can you be away from your mother? Even if you don't see her for 20, 30, 40 years, the mother is your mother.
Yeah.
My country is the same thing. I have feeling towards it. My home country is my vatan, my country, my soil. So the situation is not ready for my wish to come through. But I really do hope that one day it comes true.
I want to actually end on a song that you put out this year that's not unrelated to what we've just been talking about, called Lullaby. This is a tribute to I guess it's an ode to the plight of refugees. Tell me about what inspired this.
I said it in few interviews that what makes a refugee, what makes a human being, what makes a person to leave his or her house, his or her family, his or her loved ones, memories, to leave all of these and go to some place totally unknown. You cannot even speak the language.
Yeah.
You cannot even eat the food. Maybe because we don't eat pork, and some country they only and many other things. What makes a person to do that is not just only wars. Poverty does that to you too. Pressure does that to you too. Devastation does that to you too. Stress does that to you too. If you cannot tell me something, if you cannot support your family, you are a human being with only 24 hours a day time for yourself, right? In your hand, you cannot make that 24 hours, 26 hours. There's no way. And during these 24 hours, in order to be able to support your family, you have to work 3 places and still have less money to pay your rent, then how would you feel? How you're not human anymore. You don't enjoy your things. You don't enjoy life. You don't enjoy the smell of the weather. You don't enjoy. You don't even see a tree. You know, so that's not life. That definitely pushes you to go away, go to another one, be a refugee, right? That is very sad. And what happens during this path, God knows. So many people was dead, you know, they, for many different reasons, even when they get to the third country, for a few years, even they have to be in camps. They don't have a regular and healthy life, and they're not secure, being neighbored tent to tent with another nation, with another. You don't know who is in 2 meters away from you. You just don't know, you know, how harmful that person can be. And all of these things, this is very sad. This is not, I don't think any human being deserves this. And when I wrote this song, if you listen to the sadness of the melody, that how
it's a beautiful melody.
Yeah, even if you take away the lyrics, the melody itself takes you to oceans, to wherever, you know. So I was very, very touched by this truth of life. So I wanted to express it somehow. And if you see the video, there are some musicians on a boat that they look like they are the refugees as well. They have their pack back by them, you know, along with their instrument. Yeah. So that's why I wrote Lullaby. It's a beautiful piece. Dr. Bijan Mortazavi, I can't thank you enough. It's been an exploration and an education and learning about your path and your philosophy and your journey has been just such a treat to have you here. Thank you so very much, sir. The most impressive thing of all that I think you've done is somehow figuring out how to engineer this microphone so that it stayed in place. I mean, this was an example of the magic of Bijan Mortazavi that it actually واقعا خیلی متشکرم. Thank you for doing this. خیلی از شما من متشکرم. I really do appreciate this, and I really do thank you for inviting me and getting me the chance to talk with my people, with any people, whoever who is listening to me means they love music. So they are my people. Merci.